Let's start with what a passport ranking actually measures, because most people get this wrong. It's not about how strong your economy is. It's not about how big your military is. A passport ranking measures one specific thing: how many destinations you can enter without applying for a visa in advance. That includes true visa-free entry, visa on arrival, and electronic travel authorizations you can get online in 10 minutes. It does not include destinations where you still need to sit in front of an embassy official and beg. The most widely cited version of this is the Henley Passport Index, built on data from the International Air Transport Association, the same organization airlines use to check who's allowed to board a flight. It scores 199 passports against 227 possible destinations worldwide. Every quarter, the numbers shift, because visa policy is basically a live negotiation between governments that never actually stops. At the top of the 2026 index sits Singapore, whose passport holders can walk into 192 destinations without a prior visa. That's roughly 85% of the entire planet. Right behind it, Japan and South Korea share second place with access to 188. A cluster of European countries, Denmark, Luxembourg, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, sit just under that at 186. Compare that to the bottom of the list. Afghanistan currently holds last place with roughly 22 destinations. Not 22 without paperwork, 22 full stop, before you even start filling out forms for the rest. That's the mechanic. Same idea, a passport producing two completely different lives depending on which government issued it. So why does one small booklet open the world while another barely opens the front door? It comes down to something less obvious than money: reciprocity. Countries grant visa-free access to each other based on trust. Trust that your citizens will actually leave when their visa expires. Trust built through decades of diplomatic relationships, trade agreements, and low visa overstay rates. Passport strength ultimately reflects political stability, diplomatic credibility, and a country's ability to shape international rules, not just its wealth. Take the United Arab Emirates. 20 years ago, an Emirati passport got you into a modest list of destinations. Today, it's tied for one of the highest tiers in the entire index, the single strongest climb in the ranking's 20-year history. It happened because the country ran an aggressive, sustained campaign of diplomatic engagement and visa liberalization, signing agreement after agreement, one country at a time. Your passport strength today is a direct reflection of decisions your government made years, sometimes decades ago. You're not just carrying a travel document, you're carrying the accumulated diplomatic report card of your entire country. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. The gap between the most mobile people on Earth and the least mobile has never been wider than it is right now. Singapore's 192 destinations against Afghanistan's roughly 22 isn't just the difference, it's the widest global mobility gap the index has recorded in its 20-year history. Both ends of the list just posted their steepest single-year losses on record. Singapore actually lost several destinations this past year and still finished first, because everyone else lost more. The United States, a country most people assume sits comfortably in the top 5, has recorded the third biggest ranking decline of any country over the past 2 decades, dropping from 4th place all the way down to 10th. The UK isn't far behind, falling from 3rd place in 2006 to 7th place now. Two of the most historically powerful passports on the planet are quietly sliding down the table, while smaller, more diplomatically active nations climb past them. Meanwhile, South Africa, sitting mid-table globally at rank 48, with visa-free or visa-on-arrival access to 101 destinations, actually lost ground to 5 countries this year, including Nigeria and Pakistan, even while holding its overall position. Move a little further down, and India sits at rank 80, tied with Algeria, with access to 55 destinations, despite climbing several spots this year through active diplomatic outreach. So the story isn't rich countries win, poor countries lose. It's countries that keep negotiating win, countries that coast lose. And right now, more countries are coasting than negotiating. But before you assume the passport score tells you everything, here's the wrinkle almost nobody mentions. A high score doesn't mean no formality at all. Henley's methodology counts visa on arrival and electronic travel authorizations as visa-free, as long as you don't need prior government approval. That means Singapore's 192 includes destinations where you're still filling out an online form and paying a fee before you land. It's just not the slow embassy appointment kind of process. There's an entire industry now built around citizenship by investment, countries that will grant you a second passport in exchange for a real estate purchase or a government contribution, specifically because a stronger passport has become a tradable asset. People aren't just chasing better passports through diplomacy, some are buying their way into one. Don't confuse passport strength with quality of life. Some of the most powerful passports on paper belong to countries most tourists wouldn't rank as their dream destination to actually live in day to day. Some countries with modest passport rankings offer an extraordinary standard of living for their own citizens. The ranking measures where you can go. It says nothing about whether you'd want to stay there or whether life at home is good. So the real skill isn't just knowing your number, it's knowing what that number is actually built from and what it doesn't tell you. This matters more right now than it usually would because 2026 has been an unusually volatile year for this index. The gap between top and bottom just hit a record high in the same year the US posted a historic drop and the UK kept sliding from a podium spot it held 2 decades ago. Diplomats who track this stuff are calling it a genuine reshuffling, not the usual quiet one spot at a time shift you'd expect from a quarterly update. South Africa is negotiating to win back the access it just lost. India climbed several places in a single year through deliberate outreach. Even small, tourism-dependent nations are using visa liberalization as an economic strategy because every extra visa-free country makes their own citizens more employable, more mobile, and more attractive as trade partners. In other words, your passport's power in 2026 isn't a fixed inheritance, it's a live scoreboard updated in real time, and it's currently moving faster than it has in 20 years. So here's the whole idea in one pass. A passport ranking measures one thing: how much of the world you can enter without asking permission first. That number is built on decades of diplomatic relationships, not just money. Right now, the gap between the most and least mobile people on the planet is the widest it has ever been. Even historically powerful passports like the US and UK are sliding, while smaller, more diplomatically active countries climb past them. But it does tell you something real: which governments have spent the last 20 years building trust and which ones have been coasting on reputation. Check where your own passport stands. The number might surprise you either way. The world is bigger than you think. Now you know a little more of it. Hit subscribe if you love exploring the unexpected. See you on the next journey.